Hello, it's the Universal Critic. I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want, and today I'm going to talk about the amazing Spider-Man. Okay, first I want to make one thing very clear. I did not see this movie in 3D. I did not see it in 3D. I'm just going to get that out of the way right there. So, how is the movie? I might get a couple of hate comments for this, but I actually like it better than the first one. Okay, hear me out, hear me out. First of all, it's like, yes, this movie does basically revisit a lot of the same plot points, like Uncle Ben dying, Peter getting his superpowers and all that kind of stuff. But it takes its time more. Well, first let me say that this movie is much more serious than the Sam Raimi movies. I mean, I like the Sam Raimi movies, but they're silly. You have to admit that they're just silly. Yeah, they're just. This one takes its time, takes itself much more seriously. Not to say there isn't humor, because there is humor in this movie. Don't get me wrong, but it's much more played down. And it's not nearly as cartoony as the Sam Raimi movies. And the plot, even though it does revisit a lot of the same plot points from the Sam Raimi version, it takes its time more. Like, it expands a little more. Like, this time when Uncle Ben gets shot, for one thing, we actually see Peter's parents. I mean, they don't explain what happened to them. What happened to them outright. That's probably what they're saving that for the sequel. But, well, it's just that we get to see what an impact it had. We get to see him, like, it's hinted at why they left, but it's not explained It's not explained. Like I said, they're saving that for the sequel. But we get to see what an impact it has on him. Like, we get to see it happen to him firsthand. It's not just thrown away as some off-screen backstory. And second of all, his relationship with Aunt May and Uncle Ben is much more developed in this movie. Like, you can tell, like, they seriously view themselves as like his parents. Like, he views them as his parents, and that's when Uncle Ben dies, because he does die in this movie. You can see what an impact it has on Peter, not just because of the relationship, but because it happens right in front of him. This time it doesn't happen. He doesn't come back late. He actually sees who does it and spends most of the movie trying to find it. It just leaves a bigger impact on you. And second of all, the romance between him and Gwen Stacy, not Mary Jane Watson this time. This time is much more developed too. For one thing, I'll talk about the characters later, but let's just say, like, it makes sense. Like, you get to see them develop chemistry in a real romance. Like, there's one point where Peter's getting bullied, and Gwen actually stands up for him, like, tries to help him. That's admirable. And we actually get to see them, like, develop their romance. Like, he meets her parents, we get to see them kiss for the first time, and spoiler alert, she actually finds out that he's Spider-Man in this movie. It's not like in the Sam Raimi movies where they just kept putting it off until the second movie. This one, they get all that crap out of the way firsthand. And I won't spoil. And there is a thing where, like, that thing where he decides to stay away from Gwen to save her life, like he did with Mary Jane in the first movies. But here, I won't spoil it for you, but it's given much more motivation, and it's played out much better than the other two movies. Okay, let's talk about the characters. You got Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker. Yeah, I know I'm gonna get a ton of hate for this, but I like him better than Tobey Maguire in the role. When I first heard they were recasting Spider-Man, I thought, no, it's too soon. But then I saw in the movie, like, he actually conveyed Peter Parker much better than Tobey Maguire did. He's much more shy and awkward. Like, that's how Peter Parker's supposed to be. He's a nerd. He's supposed to be like that. Tobey Maguire was too cute to play that kind of character. Like, Andrew Garfield, he had the weird hair. He had the kind of... He managed to convey Peter Parker much better. As for Spider-Man, well, he was much chattier than Tobey Maguire was, but yeah, he doesn't have like cheesy one-liners or anything. He actually talks like a normal person and all. But sure, he's sarcastic, but it's not just to be sarcastic; it's to mask the pain that he's feeling inside. Like a lot of characters like that have. So yeah, Andrew Garfield does very good as Peter Parker. And let's talk about Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy. Did you know Emma Stone's a natural blonde? I never knew that. I thought she was a natural redhead. And in fact, when I first heard that she was going to play Gwen Stacy, I thought, wouldn't she be a better choice for Mary Jane because of her red hair? But yeah, despite that, she does a very good job. For one thing, the Gwen Stacy character is much stronger than Mary Jane was, especially the Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane was. She just seems more useful, more capable, more self-reliant, and, well, all around a more three-dimensional character than Mary Jane was. What else we got? We got Reese Iffins, I think his name is, playing the main villain, the Lizard, who I think is actually the same. I think it's actually, I'm not certain, but I think it's the same guy who played this character in the first 3 Spider-Man movies. See, what I can tell, that character in the comics eventually becomes Lizard, but that never happened in the Sam Raimi movies. I think it's the same actor. I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure it is. Anyway, how he does, well, he does very good. You know, it starts off with like him, he's experimenting with like cross-species genetics, you know, mixing animal and human DNA because he wants to find a way to regrow an arm he lost many years ago in an accident. And, yeah, you can kind of see where he gets the As for the whole lizard thing, well, did I mention lizards can regrow their limbs? Yeah, you can see where he goes from there, but the thing is, once he becomes the lizard, his motivation gets a little confused. Like, it's implied that maybe sometimes it shows like he's gone crazy because he's mad with power, other times it's because the DNA gave him like a split personality or something. It's not quite consistent, but they make a point to show that he's not a villain, he's just misguided. He's just terribly misguided and lost, trying to find answers in his life. I like that. So you got other characters like Dennis Leary's Gwen Stacy's father. He's good, and there's a really emotional scene near the end. It's very interesting. So yeah, even though I've never read the comic books these movies are based on, but from what I've been told, this version follows them a little closer, but I haven't read them, so I can't go into it. So The Amazing Spider-Man, I know you're gonna hate this, but yeah, it's better than the original. It takes its time more, it takes itself more seriously, and the effects are pretty cool, especially those POV shots of Spidey swinging through the city. It's really cool. So it's an all-around improvement. So check it out. I'm the Universal Critic. I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. Goodbye.